The call that made my whole week feel alive again. If you've ever been lonely in a house that still smells like the life you used to have, you'll understand why one phone call nearly knocked the wind out of me. It was a Monday afternoon in Cleveland, the kind where the sky can't decide if it's winter or not. I'd been standing at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the same coffee mug twice, because sometimes busy is just a disguise for quiet. The overhead light buzzed like it was tired of keeping me company. My phone rang. I almost ignored it. Most calls these days are pharmacies reminding me to refill something I don't even remember taking. But the name on the screen made my throat tighten. Mia, my daughter. We hadn't had a real conversation in, 3 months? Maybe 4. Not counting the quick texts. Busy week. We'll talk soon. The kind of messages that sound like love, if you squint hard enough. Dad? She said, and her voice was bright, too bright, like someone smiling for a photo. Hey, sweetheart. I tried to sound casual. Tried not to sound like a man starving for a single ounce of attention. So, I was thinking, she said. Can we take you to dinner on Saturday? Somewhere nice. Just us. Just us. Those 2 words hit me like warmth. I pictured her as a little girl again, sitting on the counter while her mom, my wife, Evelyn, made spaghetti. Mia swinging her feet like the world was safe. I'd love that, I said. Great, she chirped. We'll pick you up at 6. Wear something nice, okay? I laughed, like it was a joke. Like I didn't already know exactly what shirt Evelyn used to say brought out my eyes. Okay, I said. 6. Love you, Dad. Love you too, honey. When the call ended, I held the phone in my hand a long time. The kitchen light stopped buzzing, like even it decided to behave for once. And for the first time in months, I had something to look forward to. Hope will make you do foolish, beautiful things. Hope is dangerous, because it convinces you that the past can be repaired with a single good night. That week, I moved through my house like I was preparing for company, even though company hadn't been here in years. Tuesday morning, I pulled out the navy button-down Evelyn loved. It still smelled faintly like cedar from the closet. I ironed it slow, careful, like the fabric was fragile, and my heart was too. Wednesday, I dug my good shoes from the back of the hall closet. They were older than Mia's marriage. I polished them until they caught the kitchen light and threw it back at me, an older man staring into shine. Thursday, I went for a haircut. Not the cheap trim I usually get. I sat in the chair and let the barber take his time, and when he spun me toward the mirror, I almost didn't recognize the man looking back. He looked ready, like he still belonged in the world. Friday afternoon, I drove to the grocery store and stood in the floral aisle too long, debating between roses and something modest. I ended up with a mixed bouquet, nothing extravagant. $12. A small thing, but when you're retired, living on fixed income and memories, $12 is still a statement. I care. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the call. Just us. Maybe Mia finally missed me. Maybe her husband, Derek, had softened toward me. Maybe my granddaughter, Lily, had asked about Grandpa and reminded them I still existed. I'm not proud of how much I needed that dinner to be real. But after Evelyn died, the world narrowed. Friends faded. My job ended. The house stayed the same while I didn't. So yes, hope made me foolish. It also made me feel alive. At 70, you start counting moments like they're money. When you're young, time feels endless. When you're old, it feels like coins slipping through your fingers. Saturday came fast. I shaved twice, because the first time I missed a patch and got embarrassed in my own mirror. I put on the navy shirt, buttoning it slow. My hands aren't steady like they used to be. Arthritis has a way of reminding you who's in charge. I held the bouquet and thought of Evelyn. She used to say, "Don't show up empty-handed, Ron. Not even to your own daughter's house. Love should still have manners." Evelyn believed in showing up right. At 5 to 45, I stood by the window like a kid waiting for his date. At 5:58, I heard tires on gravel, and my heart did something ridiculous like it still had youth in it. At 6, exactly, Mia's SUV pulled up. She always did like being on time when it suited her. I stepped outside with the flowers and my jacket, even though the air was sharp and smelled like rain. Mia hugged me quickly, one arm around my shoulder, the other still holding her phone. Derek nodded from the driver's seat, Polite in the way people are polite to someone they don't plan to keep. "You look good, Dad," Mia said, and for a second her eyes softened. I climbed into the back seat. The heater blew warm air. The car smelled like vanilla air freshener and expensive leather. And for 20 minutes, as the city lights blurred past, I let myself believe I was going somewhere that mattered. The ride there felt like a second chance. There's a certain kind of conversation people have when they're trying to be good. Mia asked about my checkups, asked if I'd been eating, asked if I still went to the community center on Wednesdays. I told her about the chess club, about the retired firefighter who always cheats and pretends he doesn't, about how I'd started walking mornings again. Derek even laughed once when I mentioned how my old boss used to pay us in cash and donuts. "Sounds like the Stone Age," Derek joked. "Felt like it too," I said. Mia smiled, real, not forced. The bouquet sat on my lap, wrapped in thin plastic. I kept adjusting it like it was something precious. "You didn't have to bring anything," Mia said. "It's just flowers," I replied. "Your mom would have insisted. That name your mom always changes the air." Mia looked out the window for a second. "I miss her," she said quietly. "I do too," I said, and I meant it more than anything I've ever meant. We pulled into a busy district near downtown, restaurants glowing, people laughing on sidewalks. The night felt alive. When the SUV stopped in front of a place with warm lights and big windows, I read the sign and swallowed. This wasn't a casual diner. This was one of those places where menus don't have prices. Derek parked. I reached for the door handle, and that's when everything shifted. "Just wait in the car." The cruelest moments aren't always loud. Sometimes they're said softly, like a reasonable request. "Hold up, Ron," Derek said, not turning around. "Can you wait here a minute?" I blinked. "Wait, here?" Mia didn't meet my eyes. She fiddled with her seatbelt. "They're getting the table ready," she said. "It's packed." "I can wait inside," I offered. "No problem." Derek shook his head quickly. "The bar's crowded, and parking enforcement's strict. We'll be right back. Just keep an eye on the car." Keep an eye on the car. Like I was hired help. Like I wasn't her father. I laughed awkwardly. "Sure. A minute." Mia gave me a quick smile, tight, fragile. "We'll text you." Then they got out. I sat there with flowers on my lap, watching them disappear into the restaurant, their silhouettes swallowed by warm light. At first, I told myself it was nothing. A quick delay. A busy Saturday. No big deal. But 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I called Mia, straight to voicemail. I stared at the window, watching strangers walk in and out, couples, families, groups of friends, all of them welcomed inside like they belonged. At 6:45, I felt cold creep into my hands. At 7:05, my stomach growled. And at 7:20, I looked up and saw them through the glass. Mia, Derek, and 4 other people sitting with them, laughing, eating, a table set for 6. No chair for me. If you're watching this right now and you've ever felt invisible to the people you've sacrificed everything for, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I want to know I'm not the only one who's been left out in the cold. I counted the chairs like they were counting my worth. I didn't mean to count them. It just happened like my brain needed proof that what I feared was real. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 chairs, 6 plates, 6 glasses catching the light. I watched Derek lean back, relaxed, like a man who never doubted he belonged wherever he sat. I watched Mia throw her head back and laugh, my daughter laughing while her father sat outside in a car, holding flowers like a fool. The bouquet started to droop. The plastic crinkled every time I shifted. I could have left. I could have called an Uber, gone home, protected what was left of my dignity. But I stayed, because hope is stubborn. I told myself, maybe this is temporary. Maybe the friends showed up unexpectedly. Maybe they'll bring me in for dessert. Maybe Mia will come out and say she's sorry. Minutes dragged like wet cement. My phone stayed silent. I tried not to stare, but my eyes kept snapping back to that window. It felt like watching a life I used to have warmth and belonging while I sat on the outside. At 8:10, they finally stood up. I saw coats, movement, laughter. Derek tossed cash on the table like money meant nothing. Mia leaned in to hug one of the women. Then the group spilled out of the restaurant, loud and happy. Derek's arm was around Mia like he owned the night. They walked toward the car. Toward me. Toward the moment I knew I'd remember for the rest of my life. The $40 felt heavier than any insult. Derek opened the driver's door, then looked at me like he'd just noticed I existed. "Oh, hey," he said, grinning. His breath carried wine. "Thanks for waiting." Mia stood behind him, cheeks flushed, eyes glossy. "I waited 2 hours," I said quietly. Derek laughed like I was exaggerating. "Man, time got away from us." Mia avoided my gaze. "Sorry, Dad. It just ran long." Derek dug into his wallet, fumbling, then slapped 2 bills into my hand. "Here," he said. "Gas money. And, your share." I stared down. 2 20s. $40. "Thanks for driving, Ron," Derek added, like I was his Uber. "Appreciate you." Something in my chest went cold and still. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded, climbed into the driver's seat because somehow, in that moment, it felt like I had no other role to play, and drove them home. They laughed in the back seat, murmuring about food and drinks and that hilarious story from the table. Mia rested her head on Derek's shoulder like she'd had a perfect night, and I drove through city streets, silent, with $40 on the console and dying flowers on my lap. I thought, this is what I am to them. A convenience, a resource, a man who exists to make their life easier. That night, I added up my life on a piece of paper. I didn't sleep. I set the bouquet in a glass on the coffee table, and it looked pathetic there, like a gesture that never got a chance to become love. The 220s sat beside it, $40. At around 3 a.m., I grabbed an old envelope and a pen. My hands shook, but not from age. From realization. I wrote down what I'd helped them with over the years, $80,000 toward their first house down payment, $22,000 when Derek's business opportunity fell apart, $15,500 when Mia's credit cards got out of hand after she stopped working full-time, $9,000 here, $6,000 there. Repairs, emergencies, temporary, help. When I totaled it, I stared at the number until my vision blurred. That wasn't just money. That was Evelyn's overtime shifts. That was my busted back from decades in construction. That was our retirement safety. And Saturday night, the value of my presence in their world was $40 in a closed restaurant door. By sunrise, I had one clear thought. I can't live like this anymore. Sometimes the right person says the right thing at the wrong time. Sunday morning, I went to the community center because I didn't know where else to put the pain. My friend Cal was there, retired steel worker, hands like bricks, heart like a soft couch cushion once you get past the gruff. He took one look at me and frowned. "You look like you got hit by a truck." I sat across from him and told him everything. The invitation, the shirt, the shoes, the flowers, the car, the window, the 6 chairs, the $40. Cal's face changed slow, like a storm rolling in. "That's not a misunderstanding," he said when I finished. "That's humiliation. She's my daughter," I whispered. "And you're a human being," Cal snapped. "And you're her father, not her driver, not her ATM. I stared at my hands. They looked old, useful, worn. "What do I do?" I asked. Cal leaned in. "You find out what your options are. You stop being afraid of rocking the boat." "I don't want to sue my own kid." "I'm not talking about suing," he said. "I'm talking about knowing where you stand. Power is knowing you can walk away." Those words landed hard. Because the truth was, I'd never believed walking away was allowed. I'd spent decades thinking love meant endless giving. Cal looked at me and said quietly, "Ron, you can love her and still say no." That's when I decided to make a call. The lawyer didn't give me anger, he gave me clarity. Monday morning, I met with Mr. Hensley, the same estate attorney who helped me after Evelyn passed. His office smelled like paper and coffee. Calm, controlled. The opposite of my life lately. He listened without interrupting, took notes, asked questions. "Ron," he said finally, "the down payment you gave them, was it a gift or structured as shared equity?" "I thought it was a gift," I admitted. "But my name is on some paperwork. At the time, Derek said it would help the mortgage rate." Mr. Hensley typed for a moment, then turned the screen slightly toward me. "You're listed as a partial owner," he said. My stomach tightened. "I don't want to take their home." "I'm not suggesting you do," he replied. "I'm suggesting you understand you have leverage, and you have rights." He folded his hands. "Ron, you've provided nearly $180,000. You're not obligated to continue. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're protection. What if I cut them off and she never speaks to me again? I asked, voice thin. He didn't flinch. Then you'll grieve, he said, but you'll also stop bleeding. That sentence hit me like truth does, simple and merciless. He looked at me. What do you want? I pictured that restaurant window. 6 chairs. I pictured the $40. I said, I want to stop being treated like I'm disposable. Mr. Hensley nodded once. Then you need to say it, clearly, and be prepared to follow through. Confrontation is terrifying, until it's necessary. I drove to Mia's place that afternoon. They lived in a condo on the nicer side of town. Steel, glass, doorman. The kind of building that smells like money. A building I had helped pay for. The elevator ride felt like a slow climb into my own fear. When Mia opened the door, she didn't look surprised. She looked irritated. Dad? She said. What are you doing here? We're busy. Busy. Always busy. Unless they needed something. I stepped inside without asking permission. Derek was on the couch, scrolling his phone like the world was a feed and I was an ad. He glanced up. Hey, Ron. Don't hey me, I said, and my own voice surprised me. Calm. Steady. Mia blinked, like she'd never heard that tone from me. What's going on? She asked. I looked at both of them. Why did you leave me in the car? I said. Silence. Not confusion. Not shock. Just silence. That silence told me everything. Mia's mouth opened, then closed. Derek sat up, annoyed. Mia finally said, Dad, you're making a big deal out of being treated like I don't exist? I cut in. Out of being hidden like I'm embarrassing? Derek rolled his eyes. And that's when I knew the truth wasn't going to be gentle. The truth came out, and it was uglier than I imagined. Derek stood, stretching like he was preparing for a debate he was sure he'd win. Look, he said, you want honesty? Yes, I replied. He shrugged. That place was upscale. Our friends are professionals, people we network with. And you, he gestured at me, not even trying to hide the contempt. You wouldn't have fit, he said. Your clothes, your stories, it would have been awkward. My skin went cold. I turned to Mia. Is that what you think? I asked quietly. Mia's eyes flickered. She didn't answer right away, and that delay felt like a knife. Dad, she said finally, voice tight, you're being sensitive. It was just dinner. Just dinner. Like dignity is small. Like 2 hours in a cold car is nothing. I took a breath. I brought you flowers, I said. I bought them because your mother would have wanted me to show up with love. Mia's face flushed. Derek scoffed. You're acting like we committed a crime, Derek said. We gave you gas money. Gas money. I stared at him, then at Mia, and something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally stopped bending. I'm done, I said. Mia's eyes widened. Done with what? With being your safety net, I said. Done with being used. Derek laughed. Oh, come on. I didn't laugh back. Boundaries feel like betrayal to people who benefit from your silence. I'm not giving you another $1, I said. The words hung in the air like a bell that can't be unrung. Mia stepped forward. Dad, you can't just... I can, I said. And I am. Derek's jaw tightened. That money was a gift. I gave it out of love, I said. Not out of obligation. And love doesn't mean I accept disrespect. Mia's voice cracked. Are you really going to punish me over one night? One night? I repeated. Mia, it wasn't one night. It was years. Years of you calling when you needed help and disappearing when you didn't. She looked away. I pointed toward the window, toward the skyline they paid to admire. I helped you get this, I said. I drained my future to build yours. And Saturday, you treated me like I was a driver you didn't want your friends to see. Derek scoffed again, but it sounded forced now. I continued, steady. You either refinance and remove my name from anything I'm tied to, or we figure out the legal options, I said. But either way, this ends. Mia started crying. Derek looked furious. And for the first time, I didn't move to soothe her tears. I didn't rush to patch the damage, because the damage wasn't new. The damage was finally visible. I walked to the door. Mia whispered, Dad, please. I paused, not because I was weak, but because I was human. Then I said, I love you, but I'm not doing this anymore. And I left. The silence afterward was painful, and peaceful. The first week was quiet. No calls, no texts, no apology. I kept expecting my phone to buzz, kept expecting guilt to chase me. But what I felt most was relief. I started going to the community center more, played chess, joined a woodworking group even though I'd never built anything beyond a birdhouse in my life. Cal and I started getting breakfast on Fridays at a little diner with cracked booths and the best pancakes in Cleveland. At home, I planted tomatoes in the backyard, something Evelyn always wanted, but we never got around to because life was always later. I slept. Real sleep. Not the half-sleep of a man waiting for someone to decide he matters. The house felt different. Still lonely, yes, but not heavy. Like I'd been carrying a backpack full of rocks for years and finally set it down. One afternoon, I caught myself humming while washing dishes. It startled me. I realized I hadn't heard myself make that sound in a long time. The funny thing about peace is that it doesn't arrive like fireworks. It arrives like a clean countertop, like a quiet room that no longer feels like punishment. That second week after I walked out of Mia's condo, I started noticing small things, things I'd ignored for years because I was too busy being on standby. I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't checked my phone first thing. That used to be my habit. My eyes would open and my hand would reach. Almost panicked, like there might be a missed call from my daughter that would prove I still mattered. I'd scroll through silence and tell myself, maybe tomorrow. But that morning, I just didn't. I made coffee and stood by the window while the steam fogged the glass. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up. A dog barked twice. Somewhere down the block, a kid laughed. Ordinary sounds, but they landed differently, like the world wasn't waiting on Mia's attention to feel real. I found myself opening drawers I hadn't opened in months. I cleaned out the junk drawer, the one Evelyn used to threaten to organize, one of these days. There were old batteries, paper clips, a broken tape measure, and a birthday card Mia had made me when she was 8. Construction paper, lopsided letters, glitter that still clung to the folds like it refused to grow up. The front read, "Best Dad Ever." I stared at it longer than I meant to. Not because I believed it anymore, but because I remembered how much I used to. Back then, Mia would run into my arms like I was the safest place in her world. She'd ask me to check under the bed for monsters. She'd fall asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder while Evelyn watched old sitcoms. She had this habit of squeezing my hand twice when she was nervous, like a secret signal that meant don't let go. Somewhere along the line, that signal disappeared. I didn't notice it leaving. I just noticed one day that my hand was empty. That's the part people don't talk about when your kids grow up. They tell you, they'll always be your baby. But no one tells you your baby can become someone who only calls when they're short on time, short on money, short on patience. I sat at my kitchen table with that old card and realized something that made my throat tighten. I wasn't just grieving Evelyn. I was grieving Mia, too. Not the woman she is now, the polished version who lives behind glass and schedules and social circles, but the girl who once believed her father was enough. The girl who didn't need me to impress anyone. The girl who would have dragged a 7th chair to the table without thinking. That afternoon, I drove to the hardware store just to have somewhere to go. I bought a small pack of tomato steaks and some twine, then stood in the aisle, staring at garden gloves like I was learning how to start over at 70. A younger man walked past me, talking on his phone, laughing loud, careless. For a second, I envied him not his age, but his certainty. The way he moved like love was guaranteed. I got home and worked in the yard until my back ached. Dirt under my nails, sweat on my neck. It felt honest. It felt like the kind of tired you earn, not the kind you suffer. When I finally went inside, I passed the mirror in the hallway and paused. I still looked old, still looked tired. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't look desperate. And I didn't realize how important that was until the universe decided to test me. Then the phone rang and the universe tested me. 2.5 weeks after I walked out of Mia's condo, I was in the yard, watering the tomato seedlings, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my chest told me to answer. "Mr. Dalton?" a woman asked, professional tone. "This is Street Vincent's Hospital. I'm calling about Derek Marshall. He was in a car accident." My stomach dropped. "He's stable," she continued, "but he needs surgery. Your daughter listed you as an emergency contact." I closed my eyes. Of course she did. "We also need to inform you," the nurse added. "There will be an out-of-pocket cost, $16,000 $900. Insurance isn't covering everything. There it was. The reason. The hook. The need. For a moment, anger flared. Not hot, but sharp. They didn't call to apologize. They called because they needed my wallet. But then I pictured Evelyn, and I asked myself a hard question. What kind of man do I want to be, even when they don't deserve it? I'll come, I said. If you're listening right now, I want you to tell me something. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Because moments like this, they make you realize how many of us are quietly fighting the same battles inside our families. I helped, but I didn't surrender. At the hospital, Mia looked smaller than I remembered. No makeup, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying. When she saw me, she stood up fast. Dad! I didn't hug her. I didn't push her away either. I just sat down across from her, letting the silence speak first. I'm sorry, she said, words tumbling out. I'm sorry about the restaurant. I'm sorry about everything. Derek was wrong. I was wrong. She swallowed hard. They said we need money, she whispered, and I didn't know who else to. I know, I said gently. I know why you called. That truth made her flinch. I walked to the billing desk, handed over my card. When I returned, Mia was crying quietly. Thank you, she said. I sat down and looked her in the eyes. This is the last time, I said. Her lips trembled. I understand. After this, I continued, you are not my responsibility financially. You and Derek will figure out your life like adults. Mia nodded, tears falling faster now. I didn't do this because you earned it, I said. I did it because I have to live with myself. Those words weren't punishment. They were boundary. They were the line between love and self-destruction. When the nurse came to take Mia to sign forms, I stood, walked out of the waiting room, and left her there. Not to be cruel. To remind both of us. The old arrangement was over. Peace isn't loud, it's routine. After the hospital, Mia went quiet again. No thank you text, no follow-up call, nothing. And for the first time in my life, I didn't chase. I went back to my routine. Tomatoes, chess, woodworking, pancakes with Cal. I cleaned the spare bedroom where Evelyn's things still sat in boxes. I donated some clothes, kept a few sweaters, held her old cookbook like it was a prayer. The house felt lighter. I was poorer, almost $17,000 poorer, but I wasn't broken. I'd passed some kind of test. Not theirs. Mine. Cal told me one morning, you did it right. You helped because you chose to. But you didn't kneel. He was right. There's a difference between mercy and being used. I was learning it late, but I was learning it. When she finally showed up, she didn't bring excuses. 6 weeks after that restaurant night, I heard a knock on my front door. I opened it and found Mia standing on my porch alone. No designer bag. No perfect hair. Just a plain sweater, tired eyes, and hands clasped like she didn't know what to do with them. For a second, she looked like my daughter again. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. In the kitchen, I made coffee without asking, because old habits cling to you. We sat across from each other, the same table where Mia once did homework while Evelyn cooked. Mia stared at the mug. I've been thinking, she said. A lot. I waited. I treated you like you were only valuable when I needed you, she whispered, and I let Derek make me ashamed of you. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, she said. Not because I need something, because I was wrong. I studied her face, searching for the old patterns, apology as a tool, apology as a shortcut. But this time, she looked like someone who'd been humbled. What happens now? She asked quietly. I took a breath. I love you, I said. But we don't go back. Mia nodded. I don't want to go back. I want to earn it. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. We talked for an hour. Not dramatic, not movie perfect, just honest. Mia told me Derek was recovering. Their marriage was strained. Reality had hit them hard once the safety net disappeared. I didn't realize how dependent we were, she admitted. How entitled. Entitled? That word matters. I said, here's what I can offer. Coffee once a month. No money, no rescues. Just time. If you show up with respect. Mia swallowed. Once a month, she repeated. I can do that. I nodded. We sat in silence, sipping coffee. The silence wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. It was rebuilding. When she stood to leave, she hesitated at the door. "I'm really sorry, Dad," she said, "for leaving you in that car." I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. Instead, I said the truest thing I could. "I know," I said, "and I'm still here. But I'm different now." Mia nodded slowly, like she understood the weight of that. Then she walked down the steps and drove away. I watched until her car disappeared, and I realized my hands weren't shaking. What happened next was the real change. The next morning, I watered my tomatoes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not joy exactly, not happiness, something steadier, self-respect. I thought about that night outside the restaurant, how I sat in the dark, watching my own daughter laugh through glass like I was a stranger. I thought about the $40, and I thought about how, for years, I believed being a good father meant never saying no. I was wrong. Being a good father doesn't mean being a doormat. Love without respect isn't love, it's a transaction where only one person pays. If you're listening to my story and you recognize yourself in it, please hear me. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to protect your dignity. You are allowed to say, no more, even to family. Because the truth is, you can love someone deeply and still refuse to be used. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling the people who hurt you. So that's my story. If it hit you anywhere in your chest, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I want to know how far this message reaches. And if you've got your own story about family, respect, and learning to stand up for yourself, share it below. You never know who needs to read it tonight. Thank you for listening. And wherever you are, don't forget this. You are not anyone's driver. You are not anyone's backup plan. You are enough exactly as you are.